Hi, welcome to Virtual CB1A. This is Ma'am Rena and this is week 1, lecture 1 of Calculus 2. Today we are going to have a review of derivatives. This is part 1. So at the end of this lecture, you are expected to recall the concept of derivatives and find the derivative of a given function. Let's start with the definition of the derivative of a function. So the derivative of a function at a given point x is represented by this notation. This is f prime of x, or read as the first derivative of the function f of x, which is given by this formula. The first derivative of the function f of x is equal to the limit of the function f of x plus h minus the function f of x over h as h approaches to 0. If the limit of the function exists, the derivative of a function corresponds to the slope of its line tangent to a given point. So to help you recall it better, we are going to have some examples. Let's find the derivative of the following functions. We have f of x is equal to x minus 3, f of x is equal to 2x plus 5, and f of x is equal to x squared. Let me just exit this presentation and transfer. Okay, let's start. Alright, now let's recall the formula given earlier. The first derivative of f of x is equal to the limit of the function f of x plus h minus the function f of x all over h as h approaches to 0. For the first function in our problem, it is f of x is equal to x minus 3. Let's find its first derivative. So, to find the first derivative, we are going to make use of this formula here. Naglalag siya. Let's try to make it better. Medyo nag-a-adjust pa siya. We have here f of x plus h is equal to, we are going to replace the value x here by x plus h. So instead of having x minus 3, we are going to have the quantity of x plus h minus 3. Okay? Now that we already have the value for f of x plus h minus f of x, let's plug it into our formula. We have the value of f of x plus h, x plus h minus 3, minus, okay, be careful when dealing with the subtraction symbol. You always have to use grouping symbols. We have x minus 3 all over the value h. And don't forget that the limit as h approaches to 0 should be written before our term here. So we have the limit as h approaches to 0 of this function here. Let's simplify. X plus h minus 3 minus x plus 3 all over h. Now let's simplify. X minus x will be 0. Negative 3 plus 3 will be 0 as well. You will be left with the limit of 1 as h approaches to 0. Why 1? H divided by h is 1. And let's substitute 0 for the value of h. Do you see any variable h here? Wala. So, the first derivative of our function will be 1. Okay? Now, let's relate it to the graph of our function x minus 3. As you have learned from your previous math subjects, if we are graphing linear functions, just look for the y-intercept, negative 3, and then take note of our slope. The slope here is 1. So our line should pass through negative 3 and have the slope 1. So for every rise, 1 unit, your graph should move to the right 1 unit as well. So at 0, it is negative 3, the y-intercept. At negative 2, it is 1. And at negative 1, or at 0, it is negative 3. At 1, it is negative 2. At 2, it is negative 1. And at 3, it is 0. So why is our first derivative also equal to 1, our original slope here? Based from our formula, or based from our definition of derivatives, the first derivative is equal to the slope of the line tangent to our function at a given point. So for every given point in our line here, the line tangent to our function will be the line itself. So it will also have the function or the slope equal to 1. So the first derivative, the slope of the line tangent to our graph or tangent to our function, is also the slope 1. I hope that was clear. Now let's go to the next function. I hope this will make it even more clearer. Let's have here f of x is equal to 2x plus 5. Again, let's find f of x plus h first. F of x plus h is equal to the variable x replaced by x plus h. So that will be 2 times the quantity of x plus h plus 5. Now that we already have the value of f of x plus h, let's find the first derivative by substituting our values to the formula. So the limit of the function 2 times x plus h plus 5, this is in place of f times x plus h, or f of x plus h, minus our original function 2x plus 5 as h approaches to 0, of course. And for the denominator, it is h. So for the limit of 2x plus h plus 5 minus 2x plus 5 all over h as h approaches to 0, it will be the limit of, let's just distribute 2. We have 2x plus 2h plus 5 minus 2x minus 5 over h as h approaches to 0. Now let's simplify. 2x minus 2x is 0. Positive 5 minus 5 is 0. So you will be left with 2h. So the limit of the function 2h over h as h approaches to 0 will be, let's substitute the value 0 for our variable h. That will be, before you substitute it, let's simplify first. We have 2h's here. So we have limit of the function 2 as h approaches to 0 will be just 2. So substitute the value 0 to h. So our first derivative here, or the slope of the line tangent to our function at a given point is 2. In this case, since it is a constant, at any given point, the tangent will be equal to 2. If we are going to graph this, again, just look for the y-intercept. We have here 5. And then, for the slope, for every increase, for every 2-unit increase, there will be a 1-unit movement to the right. So at 7 or at 1, it is positive 7. At 2, it is positive 9. This is our line. Just extend it indefinitely on both directions. This is going to be the representation of our function. Again, since this is a linear function, for every point on our line, the slope of the line tangent to it will be the same as the slope in our original function, which is 2. I will change the colors so I can emphasize it better. So the derivative here, 2, will be equal to the slope of our original function since this is a linear function. Now let's try another type of function. Okay, so this is a quadratic function, the most basic one, the simplest of all parabolas. Ayan. So for here, again, we are going to find the first derivative of the given function. Let's find f of x plus h. So replace the variable x by x plus h. X plus h squared. To get the first derivative, just plug in your values to the function. We have the limit of f of x plus h. It is equal to x plus h squared in place of this one, minus f of x, which is our original function, x squared, all over h as h approaches to 0. We have the limit of the function. You can use FOIL method or you can also use special products. We have x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. If you want to compute for it manually, kayo yung bahala. But, paulit-ulit natin itong ginagawa. You should be able to expand expressions such as this with ease. Hindi nyo na kailangan magmano-mano. All over h as h approaches to 0. Now, let's simplify. X squared minus x squared, that is 0. 2x plus h squared all over h na lang ang matitira. So, baba ulit natin siya. If you will notice, we have h as a common variable between the two terms. So, we can factor out h. If we factor out h, you will be left with 2x for the first term and just h for the second term, all over h. Now, we can simplify it pa. H divided by h is 1. So, you will be left with the limit of the function 2x plus h as h approaches to 0. To get the first derivative, just substitute 0 to our value h here. Burahin pala natin yung over ko para mas makita nyo siya ng better. So, limit of 2x plus h na lang siya. as h approaches to 0. So the first derivative is equal to 2x plus 0. So mawala na tong part na to because ipa-plug in na natin yung value na 0 in place of our value h here. So for the first derivative of x, it is 2x. Yan, mas matatest na natin better yung idea ng derivatives para mas ma-recall nyo siya ng mas maayos. Lagi natin itong ginagawa, si x squared, the vertex is 0, and then at 1, it is 1. At negative 1, it is also 1. At 2, it is 4. And of course, at 3, it is 6, 7, 8, 9. Ah, hirap mag-graph. Oh my God. Yan. Kunyari na lang perfect yung graph ko. Baguhin natin yung kulay so you can see it better. So this is the graph of our function. Ayan. Now let's check if this is going to be the slope of the line tangent to our curve or function x squared. This is our function f of x. So try natin sa 0. Ano yung tangent niya? Ano yung slope ng line tangent to it at 0? So ang tangent sa kanya, of course, the x-axis. And the slope of horizontal lines will be 0. Alright, so at f prime of 0, at x is equal to 0, it is 2 times 0, or the slope of the line at point 0 is also 0. Horizontal line siya. Check natin siya for 1. Ito yung kunyari naging second. Ito yung line natin, tangent to 1. Ano daw yung slope nitong line na to? Yung tangent at point 1. So we have at x is equal to 1, the tangent will be the first derivative at x is equal to 1, 2 times 1, which is 2. So the slope of this line is 2. For every rise, 1 unit, there will be 2 unit movement to the right. Let's have one last example. Ito naman. Dapat ito, since ang tangent niya, if you will notice, is a line that rises from the right side to the left side. Ganito yung itsura niya. Your slope should be negative. Tandaan nyo pa yun, di ba? Kapag ganito yung slope, positive yan. Pag ganito yung slope, negative yan. Pag ganito yung slope, 0. Pag ganito yung slope, undefined. Kasi 0 yung denominator. Let's go back to f prime of negative 2. Kunin natin yung slope niya. So, at x is equal to negative 2 ito. We have 2x or 2 times negative 2. The slope of the line tangent to our curve or our function at negative 2 is negative 4. Ito siya. And if you will take notice, compare mo naman yung steepness nito to this one. Mas steep talaga to and it is negative. It rises from left to right. So the slope here is negative 4. For every 4 units rise, there will be a 1 unit movement to the left. Okay? So I hope that was clear. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email And then we will set another tutorial. Kasi medyo hirap talaga tayo. Lalo na, I will try my best to represent the graphs even better. Next time siguro instead of drawing them myself, hindi pa kasi ako marunong mag-paste ng graph. Hindi ko pa na-install yung graphing tool dito sa laptop ko. At saka naghahanap ako ng mas maayos na drawing board. So next time, masaayusin natin yung mga drawing para hindi siya nakakalito. If you have any questions, yun nga, sabi ko, mag-send lang kayo ng message sa akin and I will try my best to give you a better example, a better discussion if you didn't understand anything or if you are having difficulty understanding our lesson. Okay? So thank you very much for listening and see you next time. Bye-bye!